Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Demystifying Money. I am joined by my friend Bri White. She is a returning guest. She is the founder of Vostramota, and she is, I have to read it because I was on her website and I love all the rebranding she's done. So, Vostramota is a queer, nerd-forward personal styling company that helps purpose-driven folks embrace their unique style superpowers. I think that is just such a lovely way that you captured your business. We're going to talk today about, well, it's springtime. A lot of people are looking at their closets, and a lot of people are thinking about, where they're going to put some of their budget and what they want to do. Some people are returning to the office for the first time, some people for the first time in years. So I thought it'd be fun to talk with her today about, style, fashions, things that can be a little bit overwhelming, a little bit, people might think that they can't afford them, but how we can start to incorporate some of her techniques and ideas that she uses with her private clients into our own lives. So thank you, Bri, so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
This episode of Demystifying Money with Misty Lynch is proudly sponsored by Soundview Financial Advisors. Visit www.soundviewfinancialadvisors.com to learn more.
For the people who might just start tuning into this show, can you share a little bit about your journey with Vostramota and kind of what led you to want to create this brand and this company that focuses on people and their personal style?
Absolutely. So I've always loved fashion. I think in times past when I've been on, I've joked that it all started with having a dress up box when I was a kid and rearranging how things were supposed to be styled to make it more creative and fun for my needs. And that's something that's just stuck with me for years. I did work a 9 to 5 for many years. And it was during that time, during COVID, that I realized that I missed creativity and I missed working with people one-on-one because I was doing a lot of behind the scenes work. I was doing a lot of admin work, which, end result, it ended up helping me a ton in starting my business and knowing how to basically do all the admin work that comes along with owning your own business. But I just missed people and being able to see progress and how I could help them to really find themselves and find confidence. I'm a huge sensitive person and an empathizer. And so I have always felt very strongly about helping people to feel their best, whether that's just being a listening ear or being able to give them advice when they needed it. And I've always had an eye for style, according to my family and friends. And so it all kind of merged together in this world of how do we help people to feel good about themselves with something they have to do every day, which is get dressed. I have a background in modeling and costume and cosplay as well, just for fun. And that, I think, helped me combine my ideas of, well, how do you dress for the day to day, but also what happens when it's easier to dress in a costume than it is to dress as yourself. And that's kind of when I rebranded my business about 1.5 years ago. That was a big thing that came to mind for me because I had a blog for 10 years for nobody other than myself, really, and maybe a couple friends, where I would just make costumes and show cosplays I created from what I owned or things that I've found while I was thrifting, because I just wanted that creative outlet and to show people, hey, you don't have to spend a ton of money or you don't have to spend a ton of time if you don't have it to create something fun. But I think when it's easier for you to dress as a different character than it is to figure out who you are, that's a big sign of it's time to explore that a little bit more and figure out how do you become the main character of your own life.
I think that is such an interesting concept. Because I know I'll talk to people who, maybe as soon as they pop on a Zoom call, they apologize because they're underdressed or they feel like they don't put any effort into what they're wearing. And it's starting to, like you said, almost feel like a costume. Like this is and it's kind of who I am. And then I know some people who can like throw on a blazer and they're a new person. They are now ready to dominate. And so it's interesting because I never really thought about it as like for, costume and things like that. But it is kind of every day we're choosing how we're going to be out there in the world. And people are
Absolutely.
noticing and observing. So, and I think it's a really fascinating concept. So, and it also is it's a bit fun when you're thinking about it this way, because I think a lot of us just we do the same thing every day or really close to it. And I feel like fashion, food, all of those things that we do every single day, and this impacts things financially as well, we might not be thinking about it as much after a certain time. So it is really kind of that awareness that you're bringing to people
Yeah.
about the choices that you're making. So I wanted to talk with you kind of on this subject about style quests. This is a
Yes.
focus, you know, for your content. And I think, you know, I have a little gamer at home who's about 12 years old. And so I think it's fun because when you think about a style quest, tell me how you kind of how you transform the way people approach their wardrobe with that concept.
Yeah. So the concept with StyleQuest, again, it kind of lends itself to how I used to do things when I would make costumes and cosplays and kind of creating characters, but making it your own. And it's like, how do you go into this thing with a inspiration from something, but then you make it yours, whether it's because you can't go out and buy all the pieces for it, or you have something similar and you're like, but I like wearing it this way better instead. So it kind of came from that world. And I figured instead of just doing a newsletter where I gave just plain fashion tips that are based on the season, which is fine. And I definitely do include like
Mhm.
seasonal fashion tips in what I do, but to make it more specific, to make it more fun, because I really want to make fashion fun for people again, instead of dreading it when they open their closet door. It's like, again, how do you use this to your advantage? How do you level up your life using your wardrobe? How do you become the main character of your own story? Well, every adventure starts with a quest, right? Maybe it's a side quest, but there's still got to be things that you do to help you get better and practice. And so, what better way than to turn it into a style quest where I give people a key challenge for the week based on their wardrobe? Sometimes it's based around a costume or a character or book or video game or movie, because again, I think those are things that people can relate to. And it feels a little less scary than being like, go put on the outfit that makes you feel the best. And they're like, well,
Mm,
I don't know what that is. I still haven't
yeah.
figured it out yet. And it's like, well, this might be a way to help you through that. So,
Mhm.
for example, this last week, because it was the change from winter to spring, the official first day of spring happening and all that, instead of just saying, hey, let's talk about spring inspired wardrobe, I was like, how do we make this interesting to people? I want you to take Hades and Persephone, if they were people, now turn them into an outfit, because there's that mythology and, you know, there's a lot of books out there and stuff like the romantic fantasy books that are based around that. There's some video games that star Hades as the main character. And so it's bringing those different communities together and being like, oh, well, it's not just spring, but like there's a certain character to this that maybe I embody more of this. And I even shared in my own posts, I was like, I don't have a lot of spring colors personally. Like
Okay.
I tend to have more dark and dramatic colors in my wardrobe. I tend to have a lot more structured and interesting pieces and not quite as many flowy pieces. So it was even a challenge for me in creating this for other people to be like, ooh, I don't have a lot of Persephone inspired pieces. It's mostly Hades.
Yeah.
But how do I combine these to
Yeah.
create something unique to me and just play with the idea? And for me, a big part of that was I don't own a lot of florals. I think I have one floral item, which I've used like 3 times now in past videos because that's what I have for florals. But it's allowing me to see for myself, maybe I want to explore bringing more prints or patterns into my own wardrobe. And hopefully it's doing the same for other people where during these challenges where it's nothing too wild or crazy, you know, I let people know here's an easy mode, here's a hard mode, like do as you feel comfortable, but just push yourself a little bit to try something new. They might learn through the experience, oh, you know what? This wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Maybe I do want to branch out a little bit and try something that's different than I normally would. And so I try to help people embrace these new ways of trying things and just stepping outside of their comfort zone without judgment
Yeah.
and hoping to build a community around it where again we're tying it into things that are fun and hopefully you know fan based because I think
Mhm.
for all of my nerds out there it's like when you find a fandom that you love you can't help but talk about it. So hopefully I'm hitting all of these different fandoms through these different style quests that allow people to really embrace the things that they love in life.
I think it's a great way to get people to be more creative because like you said, a lot of times we don't really put much thought into it, or we do the same thing all the time, or we're really bored with our fashion. We don't think about it that much. It's not something that is interesting. And I'll I have My cousin, she posted something recently about like time to take my winter black clothes and replace them with my spring black clothes. And I get it.
Yep.
I think that there is something that's nice about things being simple and the same. But I love that you're actually putting a challenge towards it. And it might not be like you have to dress like, a fairy princess in the
Right.
spring, but what do you have? What because
Yeah.
we probably, I don't know the exact percentage, but we don't use 100% of our closet.
Yeah, I think it's 80% of our wardrobe and we only wear 20% of that.
Yeah.
Like it's a very minor
Yeah.
amount. I want to say it's like you only really wear 20% of your
Mhm.
entire wardrobe is what it comes down to, which
Yeah.
is wild to think about when you're
It
like,
is.
how much of my closet is full of stuff that I don't wear and why don't you wear it? I think
Mhm.
that's the question that I
Yeah.
really try to get my clients to ask themselves is, why don't I wear this? What's the reason? And
Yeah.
if there's a legitimate reason, and you should keep it for some reason, then great. But if it doesn't make sense for you to keep it, why is it taking up space?
Yeah, no, I think so. And I saw something and I think it was after the fires in California where one of their tips was to grab your laundry basket
Mm.
because that is what you wear the most. That's going to be your favorite thing. And I was thinking about that and I was thinking about even my kids' rooms and stuff. They have a ton of things in their drawers. And they will wait until that is clean, or we have to immediately do laundry because those are the things that they wear. And I'm
Yeah.
guilty of it too. But it is something that's really interesting when you think about cluttered space and like how much stuff we might have, but we're really only using a piece of it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to maybe see if we can talk about your concept of like closet wealth. What does that mean? And what can we do to feel better about that?
Yeah. I think one of the things I talk about closet monsters, and I think that leads us to
Mm,
kind of closet wealth. And so, again, leaning into the gaming aspect of things, you've always got these monsters that you have to fight when you're on an adventure, and that helps you to get that practice in to level up. And I think for everybody, they have different closet monsters. So, for example, we were just talking about how, you might only wear 20% of your stuff, but you've got a closet full of clothes. Maybe the closet monster is you've got a guilt goblin.
mm,
A guilt goblin might be, oh, you've got that piece in there that's shoved all the way in the back that still has a tag on it, and you can't let it go because you paid full price for that and you still haven't worn it. And
yeah.
so you feel guilty about the fact that you never wore it, and that's why it's still there. But every time you look in the closet and you don't choose to wear that, the guilt goblin comes up. And
Hmm.
then you have to face that. And you have to decide each time that happens, am I going to feel guilty for this? Or am I going to make a decision of, if I don't wear it by this point, I'm either going to give it to a family member or a friend, I'm going to consign or donate it, or I'm going to wear it with a purpose. I'm going to find a way to use this. I'm going to
Hmm.
plan it out. Because otherwise, you're just going to have to keep facing this monster. But if you don't decide to do anything, it just lives there and it's taking up brain space and it's taking up closet space that it doesn't need to. And that's frustrating. And I think everyone has different closet monsters, but that's a big one that I think a lot of people can relate to. And I
Do you
think
think that people also have the I'm going to fit back in this again someday shame monster?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I
Yes.
think there's a lot of times where we have these things or maybe we used to work in an office, maybe you had suits that you had to have and you don't need them anymore, but it's that, well, what if I at some point need it? And then I wonder sometimes when I got rid of a lot of things, um, am I going to want to wear that if I ever
Mhm.
need to again? Or
Mhm.
is it like 15 years old and not my favorite?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a really great question because I think when that does come up for a lot of people, it's that fear of, but what if? It's kind of the FOMO of your closet. It's like, what if I miss out on something?
Mhm.
I already spent money on this, and what if I have to find something new again? But for a lot of folks, once they start going through their items, once we started, the first session, our session zero, going over what do you want from your closet?
Mhm.
Like, what are you looking for from your closet? Because your clothes should work for you. You shouldn't have to work for your clothes. What does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? What are words that you want to feel empowered by when you're wearing pieces? And you have people think of those words when they look at you, or you look in the mirror and you think those words about yourself. For a lot of folks, if they tried those pieces on right now, it wouldn't match up anymore because maybe at one point those it
Yeah.
did make sense. Maybe they had different words that was like, yeah, I want it to be really professional and I want it to be seen as very mature and confident and very structured. but maybe over time that's not who you are anymore. And so the words don't quite match. And that's why the clothes don't quite fit that goal. And there's nothing saying that you can't go and find another suit, or you can't find something that has that same professional mentality to it that you want to embrace, but maybe it's not quite as strict. Maybe there's a little bit more flow to it and it feels a little bit more welcoming or approachable because that's something that you've evolved into. We evolve, our clothes should evolve with us. And I think a lot of people are afraid of letting go because we put so much emotion and nostalgia into our material items, especially our clothing. I don't know how many women can look back at one piece and be like, I wore that on my first date, or I remember wearing this when I got that raise. Like, we have these very specific memories about things, and that also makes it hard to let go. So sometimes you just need that approval of it's okay. You're allowed to appreciate those moments. You can hold on to those memories, but you don't have to hold on to the piece if it's not helping you
Yeah.
anymore. And I think that helps you to expand your closet wealth because you're being really intentional about what you have going on. And when you are more focused on, I think it's the idea of you don't need to have more things. You don't need to have quantity of things. You need to have quality of things. And that doesn't have to mean it needs to be luxury price items. That's not what quality means.
Mm-hmm.
Quality means what's going to be the most versatile for you? What are you actually going to get the most use out of? What's going to be the 80% of your closet that you wear instead of the 20%? Like, that's closet wealth.
Mm-hmm.
That's utilizing your resources to the absolute fullest of their extent and not focusing on, oh, well, but I have all of this stuff already. And so that should be fine, right? Well, not if you don't wear it.
To wear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that I like that concept, and you're spot on when you talked about, how something used to maybe make you feel. Like when I first started out in finance, I avoided anything, feminine at all. It was structured, professional, like black, navy, like lots of, you know, lots of suits, and I mean, I think that felt like when we talked about the costume, like that to me, I am like serious businesswoman and everyone's going to treat me that way and nobody's going to recognize that I'm a woman in a male space. And so it's kind of like at this point, that is not my plan anymore. That is not the goal. I feel like I don't pick those pieces up that often anymore.
Mhm.
And so when I've been getting rid of things in my closet, either by thrifting them or selling them, I want somebody to find that needs that,
Mhm.
but it's not me anymore.
Yeah.
Like somebody might be going on that interview or that
Mhm.
something and need it. So I think it's an interesting concept to kind of like not to recognize it, but then also to be able to part with things.
That's a huge thing. And I think the fact that you just mentioned it is perfect too. And it's something I've brought up with clients who have a hard time letting go of pieces is don't think of it as you're getting rid of something and what if I need this and I never get it back. Think of it as you don't use it often, and somebody else who really needs that, who gets to experience and enjoy it the way that you did at one time, like you just gave it a new life with this person who really wants or needs it, and
Mhm.
they will appreciate it so much. And you may not know them personally, but imagine if you did. Imagine if it was, a sister or a friend or a cousin that you were giving this to because you knew they had an interview coming up.
Yeah.
How good would it make you feel for them to come back and be like, I felt so good. I looked on point. I got the job. I'm so glad that I had this item because it made me feel so confident.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Just imagine that, but with potentially a stranger who
Yeah.
gets to appreciate it and value your item.
Mhm.
And that also is closet wealth, is your mindset around it.
Yeah, and I think like sometimes when I'll look at items and there's a lot of different ways to even to sell things. Like maybe you did pay full price for something and it's like I can't just put this in a bag and put it in a bin somewhere. Like you can, turning things back into money financially feels great.
Yeah.
It almost gives you that same dopamine hit as
Hmm.
spending money on something.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there are now like different ways for you to, sell something online or sell it to like an upscale online thrift store or something like that, to really, you know, get it again out of your space, but then turn it back into money or credit where you can get something new that
Yeah.
you have your eye on. So I think that can be kind of takes the sting out
Yes.
of letting go, but also kind of feels great in its own
Yeah.
way.
I think it's cathartic too, because again, when you're clearing out that space and you can see what you already have, a lot of times people don't even realize the things that they own and what they can do with it because there's just too much for them to even see. And they get so overwhelmed by the options. Option overwhelm is such a real thing, even when it comes to what's going on in your closet. And in clearing out that space, it allows you to have a better idea of what you want to be wearing or what you actually need. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you have to go through and clear things out so you can be like, oh, do you know what I'm missing? I'm missing a pair of black pants. Like that would actually get me really far and I'd be able to use it in a lot of ways. And yet, for some reason, I don't have any. Why don't I have any? I'm going to get all of the power suits out of the way and just get a pair of good black dress pants that will go with anything.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to know what those things are if you're
Yeah.
not kind of going back. Or it could lead to overspending and maybe you just keep buying things that you maybe already have or you have a very close version of. So I'm curious from your perspective, if people maybe don't want to spend, maybe they want to be a little bit more intentional with their budget or the cost of things. Are there things that you think maybe are worth investing in or ways that they can have their current wardrobe work a little harder for them
Mhm.
without that constant feeling of, I need to go get this. I need to go get this. I saw it on TV or Instagram and I want to go get it. How can we do more with what we've got and, recognize those things that maybe would be worth spending some money on?
Absolutely. I think one of the ways that I like to help people get their minds around this idea and really focus in on how can I be more intentional with my wardrobe, with what I have, is to pose the idea of meal prepping your closet.
Okay.
And I think for some people, they're like, well, I know what meal prepping is, but what's meal
Mhm.
prepping my closet? And it's the same sort of premise, right? For folks who meal prep, you take a day, you batch everything for lunches or dinners, and then you don't have to make it during the week. It's already thought about and ready to go. And all you have to do is the day of, you take your item out, you pack it, and then you're done. It's that easy. And I think you can do the same thing with your closet, right? You can meal prep your closet. And ways that you would do that is one, you would look in your closet and see what you actually have in there. That's the first start for everything is like you have to actually take some time and figure out what do I own? What's going on in here? What do I actually wear? Some people will use things like the hanger technique to see what
Mhm.
they're actually using. And that's where you put hangers in one direction and then as you wear pieces, you flip the hanger around. And then at the end of the season or whatever timeline you set for yourself, you can see what you've actually been wearing. And for the pieces that you haven't been wearing, it's a good indicator of maybe it's time to let go of this. Or maybe I need to be more purposeful and find a way to wear this. I usually recommend that if you're shopping or even when you're looking at a piece, see if you can come up with 3 different outfits for it before you either purchase the item or before you decide to get rid of it. And that allows you to see if it has versatility. And if it doesn't, then it's not a good fit for you. And it's a good opportunity to either let it go or not buy it. The
That's
second thing with kind of meal prepping your closet, looking at your outline for the week really and seeing like what do I have going on so that you can pull items together and be prepared for your week and go, okay, these are outfits that I know I want to wear this week. And again, it's allowing you to see, I'm going to pull everything ahead of time and see what I need to wear. If I've got this really big meeting that I want to feel confident, I'm going to want these specific pieces. Do I have them available? Are they at the dry cleaner? Are they in the laundry? Are they hidden in a pile somewhere? Like it makes you more conscious of what you have going on in your closet and you're starting to almost keep track of what you're using and what you're using it for. So you know when you've got these special events, you gravitate towards these pieces more than the casual days you gravitate towards these. So it's showing you what am I actually using in my closet on a day-to-day basis or for special events because we always say, well, I'll keep that for a special event. But then how often do we actually wear it when there is a special event? So it shows you, am I using that piece even for special events? And if not, well, maybe I don't need that. I need something more like these pieces. And then I also recommend that looking at the weather for the week is really important because again, we live in New England where it's 30 in the morning, 70 in the afternoon. Layers are going to be a big part of that. And I think some people get overwhelmed by the idea of layers, but it's actually a great way to show you how you can use things throughout the entire year. I think it's actually a benefit for us because you want your outfit to work regardless of if you're on the base layer for when it's the warmest out, or you have multiple layers to keep you warm because it's cold out. You want the outfit to work regardless of which part of the layers you have on or off. And it shows you how to use pieces interchangeably with each other. So as you get to colder weather, you know, oh, well, I just layered this, this, and this on top of this lighter piece, I could probably do that, but with these heavier pieces instead. So you're starting to see, how do I mix and match my pieces, not just for right now, but potentially for the rest of the year. So you're getting a better pulse on how can what I have work for me in the future too, not just right now in this moment.
I think
And
that is such a great, because anytime that you put intention behind something or you plan ahead, and this is when people, meal plan or they budget. And I think that that's something that helps, because if we don't, we tend to do the easiest thing, the least painful, which might be, grabbing what I normally wear and then getting out the door. And so when we are running late in the morning, we're stressed when we don't know what the weather's going to be like and we wake up and all of a sudden it's cold. I think that if you have that planned out, it just again makes things easier.
right.
And it means that you're going to use more of the things that you own, because if you don't, just like with meal prepping, if you're not planning ahead, you're going to order the pizza. You're going to do whatever is convenient
Mhm.
or provides the most pleasure, which might not be like the most comfortable outfit that you own, or, but I
Right.
think it's such a good point. Anytime that we want to change something, what we have to do first is decide that we're going to be more intentional, that we're going to put more effort
Mhm.
into making these changes until they become a habit. And then that becomes
Exactly.
something that you just normally do. So at first it might feel a little bit strange, but
Yeah.
after a while you might see there are things that you really do like. There's things that you really don't reach for because you're making those decisions ahead of time. And it doesn't take too long.
Yeah. It's
Look at
setting
your
the time.
calendar, see what you've got going on this week. Okay, I'm going to be in the school this day and I'm going to be in a meeting this day. So
Mhm.
knowing kind of where you're going to be, even just a week or a few days ahead of time, can have you make better choices. And
And
so
it also it limits that what you were talking about, where like you're already probably rushing in the morning to get everyone else ready, and then there's no time for you, and then you're panic dressing and you're like, I didn't want to wear this, and now I'm wearing this for the day. So it's taking that out of the picture, because if you've already planned out, you know what's going on in this week, you know the weather, you've put your outfits together in the closet in some fashion.
Mhm.
Again, much like if you're grabbing your container out of the fridge, you're grabbing your outfit kit,
Yeah.
and then you're good to go because you know you're wearing this on this day and this on this day. And if you need to add layers, you will be aware of that because you've already checked the weather for, the next couple of days. We know it changes pretty quickly, but like you have a general sense of what's expected and what you need. So you're not rushing in the morning and then making decisions unintentionally.
Mhm.
And then feeling like, ugh, I did it again. Ugh, I had no time for myself. I hate wearing this. I keep wearing the same three things and I don't want to because I have all of this wardrobe that I could be wearing.
Yeah. No, and I think it's funny because we all do it, but if you do kind of put that plan ahead, I think that you might, yeah, you even with layers, like you said, because sometimes we might be like, oh, I'm freezing. Like I'm
Mhm.
freezing in my office, or I would have taken a walk today, but I don't have the right outfit on or the right shoes. And that can lead us to like not reach some of our other goals that we might have or do some of the things that we might want to do. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, unless you're a kid in middle school, like where jackets and shorts are,
Right.
jackets are the worst and you should
Yep.
never wear them and shorts are always required. I
Yep.
feel like most of us have better ideas or better things that we could put together. So we're kind of ready for it. And my friend, when she lived in Seattle, said that there's no bad weather, just bad outfits.
Mm.
And I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, you should be able to like have the right things to go for that walk or go to lunch or go show up
Absolutely.
somewhere and feel fine. So
Yeah.
it's really just we kind of might get a little bit lazy when it comes to all of the things in our lives that take up mental space. So I love the thought of doing this ahead of time, planning out your week, even if it's just a little challenge.
Yeah. And I think going back to what we talked about a little bit before too, of if you want to be more conscious of your spending habits and budgeting and things
Hmm.
like that, something that I think people don't talk about, but they should, and something they should do. I'm apparently big on food analogies today, but I think that you should also make a shopping list for
Hmm.
your clothing, the same way that you would when you go grocery shopping. Because if you think about going to the grocery store when you're hungry without a shopping list, what do you end up doing? You end up getting the stuff that's on the end cap. You're walking through the outside of the store, and all of a sudden you're in the bakery and the donuts are on sale. So you grab those and you grab these. And then all of a sudden you get home and one, you've spent your full allotted budget for groceries, but two, you don't actually have any meals for the week, but you got a lot of really good snacks, but that
Hmm.
doesn't help you in your day to day. And it's
Right.
the same thing when you go shopping for clothes. A lot of times we go in without a plan or an idea of what we actually need or what we want to look for. And while, yes, it can be great to stumble across these really unique finds, a lot of times it's not the one-off find, it's the, well, it was on sale. So I
Yes.
bought it because it was on sale. And guess what? That's the one that's still sitting in the back of your
Hmm.
closet with the tag still on it
Right.
because it didn't make sense for you to have. And you didn't take a little bit of time to picture, could I wear this in three different ways? Could I
Mhm.
actually see myself using this with things I have at home? And just that little bit of preparation ahead of time is actually going to save you significant money and also like mindset pain later when you're like, I just created new closet monsters for no
Mhm.
reason
Right.
because I didn't take the time to prepare myself.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and I think there are a lot of times where even, and I'll see with some people, when we're looking at spending and we're looking at, especially when the shopping category gets to be larger, or they feel, you could tell that they're feeling some kind of way about it. Like it's not, oh yeah, that's what I spend each month on clothes and it's fine. It's like oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this. I know. And usually it's not that they're shopping because it's something that they wrote down on a list that they know that they need. It is, I am doing this to go feel better
Yep.
quickly. And that is just buying stuff that you may already own. It might be stuff that you don't know where you're ever going to wear it. It might be stuff that was a good deal, so it feels like a win.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel great when the credit card bill comes and you have to go pay for it. As opposed to when you know you need something. My sister doesn't shop very often, but when she came out here recently, she's like, I need jeans. Her jeans were about to fall apart. And
Yep.
so we went specifically out shopping for jeans. She found a great deal. She got like three pairs of something. And it felt like this was very intentional and necessary.
Yeah.
Now, granted, she did throw on her old jeans again, like the next day. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I can't wear them just yet.
Yep.
They're so new. And I was like, the opposite, brand new stuff, I'm throwing it right on. So it was just
Yep.
funny, but it felt like, yeah, no, this was actually planned.
Mhm.
And she got what what she needed. She's not going to look at that expense later on with any guilt or any remorse because it
Right.
was so thought out ahead of time that it just wasn't impulsive. So
Yes.
I feel like that can be really helpful for people if you know your spend, if you know your triggers. Maybe you build, a cart,
Mhm.
but you don't hit spend right away, and then you wait and see, can you
Yep.
go through? Do you have anything like it? Do you know where you're going to wear it? Do you have a plan for it? And if you do, okay,
Yeah.
maybe that purchase is a good one. If you don't, maybe you just remove it or save it for later sometime
Hmm.
because it can add up and
Yeah.
it's definitely something that can become a really sneaky habit for
Mhm.
um for that dopamine hit of getting something new.
Absolutely. And I think people joke all the time about, oh, but it's my feel good. Like, oh, what do we do when we're sad? We
Mhm.
click add to cart. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 no. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many potential issues with that because, again, then you're just buying it and you're not using it. And then you're creating this bad cycle for yourself of you start losing yourself in the process too, because you're buying things that don't make sense. And then you're like, well, what if I want to actually wear this thing? It doesn't fit my
Mhm.
style or my needs or my wants and I just don't know why I have it. And then I feel guilty for having it. And then that cycle continues. So you buy new things to make you feel better.
Yeah, no, I was speaking with somebody recently, a reporter, about Gen Z and about doom spending and about how people feel like, I'm not going to be able to afford real estate or something like that. And so they think of their big goals and they push them aside for little small
Yep.
rewards and treats. And I get it because I get that feeling that, that patience of saving up for something that's maybe an expensive item that you might feel like I would wear this I'd use this every day. I would love it, but it's going to take a while to get there.
Yeah.
That delayed gratification usually is how you win, how
Yeah.
you succeed over time. But it can be frustrating when it feels like all these things are out of reach or there's so much going on in the world that's stressful. And what's the point? I'll just do what makes me happy today. So it is something that I think a lot of people face Gen Z, all over the place, to feel that way. So I love that you're kind of helping people kind of really connect to their things. And the last question I have is style is it's like a deeply personal idea. How do you help people overcome those like doubts or limiting beliefs when it comes to embracing like an authentic style? Um, because it might always feel off if you are like if you're trying to be like what you're seeing, but it's not you. How do you help people with that? And what can our listeners do to kind of use, use their use what they've got in their closet as kind of like a path to that self-discovery that we talked about before?
Yeah. I think one of the first things that I work on with clients is we kind of dive into their mindset a little bit. We do a deep dive on what inspires you? What do you admire? Who are people that you admire, in fact? And it throws people off a lot of times because I'll be like, this isn't actually a style related question. I'm not saying you can't say somebody is a person you admire because of their style, but I want to know more. Like, is it their personality? Is it their contributions to society? Is it their activism? Is it they're funny? Is it they're a sensitive and loving person? What about these people that I have them list out do you admire and why? And as I start talking through that, there tends to be similarities between the multiple people that they tell me. And so I'll kind of point them back to it and be like, what trends or similarities do you see amongst these people? And when they start poking around and finding them, I say, is that something that you want in your life? Do you want to be like that? Is that something you're working towards right now? And most of the time it's, well, yeah, I would love to be seen this way. Or like, well, I've actually been like kind of working on my confidence, or I've been working on putting myself out there more in this way. And it's like, great. You realize that we tend to be on this trajectory and we want to surround ourselves with these people, whether or not they're people that we can physically surround ourselves with, or we watch them or we read their content, or we want to just surround ourselves with the idea of them because we want to be making that momentum and we want to reach those goals ourselves. So of course you want to surround yourselves with people that you admire. A lot of times that ties into our style because style is more than just the visual components. It's more than just the image that you put on. You can take a blazer and say, this blazer is bold, a style word, but it's not a confident blazer, but you can feel confident when you put it on. So it's the idea of we take those admiration words that really resonate, and then we say, how can you turn those into your style? What style words stick out to you, things that are the visual components of how you want to look, but how do you want to feel? How do you want other people to see you? How do you want to see yourself? And all of those things blend together to create kind of your personal brand and the way that you want to express yourself in this visual identity. And so that can be the first step for a lot of people to recognize what's actually important to me. What are some of my values maybe that I haven't sat back and thought about? How do I translate that to this is the type of person I want people to see when they look at me? This is what I want to put out in the world. How can I start doing that? Well, clothing is a great example of that because it's a great conversation starter. It's a great connector. It's one of those things where when you walk in a room without saying a word, within 7 seconds, people have made an assumption about you and they've decided what type of person you are. What are you saying without speaking when you walk into a room? And what do you want to be saying? Do they match up? So helping people to create style words for themselves, that can be a really great way to start them on that journey. And then they can take that and go into their own closet. And I'll have folks do a closet audit and we'll either do it together or I have them do it on their own. You take those words and as you look through the pieces that you have, and if you haven't worn something in a while, try it on. And then really ask yourself, does this match with these words I've created, these goals I have, this person that I'm becoming or I'm on the track to be? Because if not, you've outgrown that piece. It's maybe a past version of you, but you want to be heading in this direction and evolving as a person. And like I said at the beginning, our clothing, it evolves with us because our style changes, because our mindset changes, because we take in new things and we grow as people. So why wouldn't the other things in our life be affected by that? And it's okay to let go of the person who was to become the person who is.
Yeah. No, I think that it's so important for us to think of it. Yes, it's not always like getting more expensive or getting
Yeah.
more like it could be, okay, I had a very stiff buttoned up wardrobe then because that's what I wanted. But now I want to be more approachable. I want to feel more effortless. I want these things. And then figuring out like, is that this?
Yeah.
Or not. And so that sometimes when you're putting things through that lens, might be easier to say, okay, I can part with this now, or gift it or thrift it, versus, oh, but what if I'm her again? What if I
Mhm.
have to do this? Because then we can say, okay, we're making space in our closet. We're not overspending. And when we do need something different, we can go get it.
Mhm.
It's very smart to look at things that way and to help people with that mental piece of
Mhm.
it because
It's so
sometimes we
personal.
do get lost. Sometimes we do kind of not really know. I know when I had when my children were younger, I was wearing it like I didn't feel necessarily put together because it was like I was constantly, nursing or holding some. And so it was just interesting to think about like, okay, now after that piece, do I stay in this lane
Mhm.
or do I not want to? And trying to figure out, okay, who's this? What is the goal now? What do I like now? Who do I look at now and think, for whatever reason, I like that.
Mhm.
And we don't, normally all those things are done, subconsciously. So bringing
Yeah.
those to the forefront, so smart.
Yeah.
What's next for you this year? What have you been working on, and how can people, learn more about you?
Yeah.
What's new for spring for you this year?
I have been doing a lot more workshops and conferences and events. So I actually just finished an event in March called the Her Conference, and it was wonderful. We had two workshops that I got to host, and we really dove into what I just talked about. I went over these worksheets with folks, and I had them do it themselves so they could experience and then take it home and apply it in their own closet if they felt so inclined, so they could see what are the benefits of knowing myself. And also, I think we don't always take time to really sit and get to know ourselves. And so this can be a good practice for that because how are you supposed to know what your style is if you don't take the time to get to know yourself, you know?
Love that. That's exciting. And I love that, for conferences, I'm just thinking about how many people are probably listening and just like, yeah, I relate. Like, I get that. It makes sense because it's just all of us. All of us are doing, like you said, we're getting dressed every day. So
Yeah.
it's something to certainly think about. How can people find you if they want to connect with you or learn more?
Absolutely. They can head to my website. That's usually the main place to find all of my information in one spot, Vostramota.com. But I also have my socials, which is Vostra_Mota. I post a lot on Instagram, but I'm also on TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn. I dabble on Facebook, not nearly as much as I used to because I feel like I've had a lot more success with finding people on Instagram and TikTok because it's so visual.
Mhm.
And I feel like people relate to the visual piece of what I do. And I have a weekly newsletter that I put out with StyleQuest. So if they go to the website, they can subscribe to the newsletter and they can see what the StyleQuest is all about. Whether or not you participate, that's okay. It might give you some inspiration and some things to try. And I always include different outfit ideas. So if people are maybe needing some new pieces and they've made that shopping list intentionally and they're like, oh, this is a unique piece that I actually am looking for something like this. Well, now you know where to buy it.
Love that is awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll include all of those links in the show notes. Brie, thank you so much for speaking with me again. I love talking to you. I think that this is a definitely a big spot when I look at people's budgets and their spending, places where they have a lot of strong feelings about. And I think that you are helping people because this is not something we can never do. It's not something we can completely avoid. We have to have be a part of our lives, but to make it better, to make it feel
Yes.
better, to make it less intimidating and, guilt and shame and all of those feelings that tend to hold us back. I think it's such a great thing that you're doing, and I'm so happy to see your business thriving. And everybody, if you're interested, yeah, head over to the website, connect with Brie, or if you're looking to take a look at your budget and see where you can maybe turn some things back into money or create some space for new things you want to bring into your life, please head over to mistylynch.com. I would love to set up some time to speak with you. Thank you again for listening, and we'll talk again next week. Don't forget to share with friends and family, and together let's demystify the world of money. Knowledge is the key to financial empowerment.